Welcome to the Tea with NSP. We're doing a special episode today with a collaboration with the Cherry Bomb Social Club. Fuck me, I'm going to start that again.
I know exactly how this feels.
Yeah.
I literally relate. It's me every time. I get
also,
it.
like, someone fucked up. We can now just go, oh, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Hi, and welcome to the Tea with NSP. Today we're going to be doing a special collaboration podcast with the Cherry Bomb Social Club. Say hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Morgan. You probably heard me before. I normally do the voiceovers for the Tea with NSP. I've been on some of the hosting for some of the episodes, but today I'm joined with Nina, who joined us on one of our lovely Women's Day podcasts. Hi, Nina.
Hiya. Hey.
And with us, we've also got Emily and Lucy. Do you guys want to say a little bit about yourselves?
Sure, I'm Emily. I am a Brighton-based event producer, DJ, stage manager, everything like that. And I co-host the Cherry Bomb Social Club with my very good friend Lucy.
Yes. So I am a London-based, graphic designer, creative person, kind of do a bit of everything. I do photography and videography as well. And yeah, I co-host the Cherry Bomb Social Club podcast with Emily.
Amazing. So we're going to be doing kind of a special episode today as our Women's Theme Day for the festival. So I think we'll just start off with like something a little bit easy. What we do as students and what we do as jobs.
I study English language and literature at Edinburgh University. I'm in first year, so I've done nothing pretty much apart from assessments. Yeah, pretty much. And I also work in a craft beer tap room. So that's not currently open, but it will be soon.
So I did my undergrad at Portsmouth University, and I actually did my undergrad in childhood and youth studies, would you believe it or not?
Oh, wow.
And then I'm currently doing a part-time master's in gender and media at Sussex University.
I did a graphic design degree, graduated a few years ago. I did that at the University of Brighton, and I now have since moved to London and I'm working as a graphic designer here. So for me, it's been very like I'm very much stuck to what I know, just creative stuff all the way through. But yeah,
if you're a creative person, you always tend to stick with it anyway.
It's true.
Yeah. I'm a third year, I think I've said before, at King's College London. I'm literally just writing my dissertation now, so I pretty much finished like a month ago by this point. I do English literature with film as my minor.
Do you find is it quite nice to write? Like, I'd find that quite relaxing.
It is and it isn't. Like, I love
it's a dissertation at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah.
I think because I'm very much like a film person, I love the film element of it. Weirdly enough, I hate literature. I know I do a literature degree. I hate reading, but actually writing anything about literature is a nightmare.
Yeah. Oh God.
Lucy, what was your dissertation on?
My dissertation was on the representation of queer genders in contemporary media.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it was really good to write about. And at the time I was writing it, like, it's actually really interesting looking at the progression that I've seen in the past 2 years already since I wrote that.
And I think it's an important marker as well, because it gives a reference point to anyone else that's further along down the line.
Let's just hope that we keep progressing, because I mean, in representation, I guess we are going forward, but there are so many ways that we are going backwards.
I always find that anytime something becomes more visible and more progressive, better representations of women in any aspect, all of a sudden because of the visibility, then there becomes more visibility for the butt of the joke to happen.
Yeah.
So it's definitely. Like, oh, now more people are aware of this, we can make fun out of it because more people will understand it. I'm
like learning more and more every day that like representation can only do so much, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because in my undergrad, my dissertation was, I believe, titled Gender Roles and Stereotypes and the Effect that they have on young people's identity. So that is also to do with representation, because if certain genders, sexualities, ways of living are not represented, the effect it has on youth is astronomical. Like, not even just young people. My dissertation focused on young people, but I was a teacher for 4 years to 4-year-olds and under, and it's so interesting how they are like sponges with gender. So gender roles and stereotypes are placed on children before they're even born. If different ways of life aren't represented well enough in children's books and television, in media, in even the friends of their parents or the children that they see in their class, these children can grow up not knowing who they are or not knowing about their friends, leading for, ignorance and bigotry. So yeah, representation is something that we are both very passionate about. And when I do my thesis, I'm torn between 2 subjects. I'm either going to do, because I wrote a paper in my first half of my master's about women in drag and how about misogyny in the queer scene, and how ironic that is within drag, and how so many people are quick to say that drag is an art form, and then if it's an art form, why is there a debate about who can do it or not? So I'm torn between doing it about that or just doing it about this is going to sound so ridiculous, I'm going to do it about Lady Gaga and her use of camp. But even
amazing,
not ridiculous.
That's not ridiculous.
Even then, Lady Gaga's use of camp is the representation I needed to discover who I was. So it all comes around to being able to see yourself.
How did she become a queer icon?
Because
how I know she is.
One,
how
mama.
did she become that?
I mean, where do you begin?
Well, I know where I can begin.
Talk about,
but where did it come from?
Yeah, start from the beginning, Emily.
So Lady Gaga, Stephanie Germanotta, she
is an Italian American from New York.
She's an Italian from New York. She was always into musical theatre, and before she tried to make it really, really hard before she was Gaga, and even before she made it big with Just Dance, which, by the way, was a moment for me. I can remember where I was in Just Dance. I saw Just Dance for the first time.
Same.
But even before she was famous, she was in gay bars. She was go-go dancing on tables, and I think that in itself is such a queer liberation, and like being able to be free and be yourself in those kind of spaces. And Lady Gaga is, she's a queer woman herself. But I think being an icon is completely subjective. So I think the most iconic moment when I knew that she was an iconic legend was when I believe it was the 2006 or it could be 2008 VMAs, where she performed Paparazzi and hung herself above the stage dripping with blood. And that's when it kind of went from being a pop star to being a pop icon. So the unit that I studied was camping. It was not camping.
Pitching a tent.
It was pitching a tent with Lady Gaga. No, it was called Queering Popular Culture. And I chose to go down that route of camp. And Lady Gaga is someone who has queered popular culture through her use of camp.
I think one of the statistics I've read before as well is that I think it's something like, it's ridiculous, like 6 out of 10 undergrads go back into the closet like after taking their first graduate job on.
Really?
It's ridiculous. Like so many people go back into the closet, which just, it makes me think so much about the industry and like how graduate jobs change everybody's world, and especially it's going to change so much after COVID as well.
I feel like at uni you kind of have this, like if you say this to a student, like, oh, you think you're going to go into your dream job after uni, like, and they'd be like, no, of course I don't think that. But part of you definitely does kind of think that. You have this expectation for like the world and how your life is going to be. And then you go into the world and your life is not going to be like that. You're like, the journey you're going to take is going to be like backwards and forwards and up and down and like all over the place. And I think, I especially now I'm in like gone out of retail and I've been working in like an office job for just over a year and 4 months really. And like watching learning about like the dynamic shift and like politics of working in a job like that, in a space that is not queer at all, in a space that is at times can be extremely corporate, it can be really alienating, but I think just learning how to navigate it and also like kind of protect yourself is something that I mean I can't even it's something that I'm still learning and I'm still like figuring out. So yeah, I don't know, with you, Emily, you had a different experience to me, didn't you?
I went in doing childhood and youth studies wanting to leave to become a teacher, and I left never wanting to work in stereotypical education ever again, because I just, I won't go off on a tangent, but I think education is such is so in itself so binary, and it doesn't work for everyone, and that's something I learned during my degree. So I graduated that, and like Lucy, I didn't get a job straight away. And when I say that Lucy was one of the lucky ones, I know people that graduate and didn't get the job in that field for at least 3 years, especially in the arts. So I think, Lucy, you're definitely right with, like, you expect your life to be a certain way after you leave uni, and I think that's down to university being a massive safety net.
Oh God, it really is.
Yeah. So I then kind of broke out of this during my 3rd year. I kind of had this moment of self-discovery, which was like, you don't belong here, this lifestyle isn't for you, the partner you're with, this is not your life, this is not what you want. And that is kind of what a lot of people are taught, especially if you're from like Portsmouth isn't a small city, but it's very, very narrow-minded in my experience. So once I left that, and then suddenly I realized I don't want to do this, I do want to pursue the arts. So I moved to Brighton, and that's when I took on my master's degree, because even towards the end of my undergrad, I went in a way of wanting to do gender. So like I said before, my dissertation was on gender, and in my 3rd year I was really excited about doing this gender and education unit. And while I was there, the teacher started talking about the 2 genders on the first day, and I was like, hold on. The what? The what? So after the first lesson, I went up to her desk and I was like, hi, I just want to know what this unit, what the syllabus is going to be. She went through it and I was like, okay, is there a unit on other genders other than being cis? And she was like, oh no, there isn't. And the whole course was essentially pink and blue. And I remember having fights with my other classmates about, women's rights and this and that. And
the fact that you even had to have a discussion.
It was devastating. I felt devastated. Like, I felt like, oh, this is finally the unit for me. And I did something that I'll never regret. And at the end of every unit, I'm sure you guys get this too, you get a piece of paper or an email form. God, I'm showing my age. But you get like this piece of paper and you write down what you'd change about the unit or what you enjoyed. Essentially a feedback form. And I wrote an essay. I was like, I wrote about everything, this and this and this. And they changed the whole unit. They got a different teacher. They rewrote the whole unit, and so I'll never regret.
As they should. That's amazing though.
It's true. It's
true.
I
mean, I'll never regret doing that. So if anyone is at uni and you're not happy with the course, or you feel like there is the unit and you feel like there is something to change, please tell them, because otherwise it'll never change. I think it's really important, because I see a lot of people do this to themselves, and I see this in you as well, Lucy. We've had this conversation many times.
Yeah.
It will happen. Just because it's not happening right now, it will happen.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of, like, if you get what you want straight away, what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
It's true.
And everything is a learning process.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I have learned so much from the kids I've worked with, which I apply to what I do, in all my other fields of work.
Yeah.
So I'm quite lucky that where I work now and the nursery I worked at were very, like, welcoming of queer acceptance, and if they didn't know enough about it, they would give me that role. So I've been very fortunate in that place. But like I said, my first degree was not the same as my experience now.
Yeah.
After all of this and being at uni, how did Cherry Bomb come to be? Where in the midst was this?
This Cherry Bomb has been a thing for a month, less than a month.
Oh, not long.
Yeah, but the idea has been, Emily can tell you about this because it was her initial idea.
Yeah, so in the timescale of all I've just said, I moved to Brighton 3 years ago. So I started my started my master's, I guess 2.5 years ago now. That sounds crazy because
Yeah.
obviously 2020 has added this extra year,
this void year,
God.
which I just wish that I could reclaim.
Yep.
Like, oh,
I co-run a queer club night at the venue called Polyglamorous. So I've thrown club nights there before, and I was talking to one of my managers, and I was like, I really want to do a club night because a lot of their nights are student nights, and you know, they are what they are, and they serve their purpose, and you know, they have a great following. But I wanted to create a night specifically for students that was kind of female based, because I don't know about you guys, but a lot of clubbing experiences can be somewhere you go to hook up with people, or lads going out, or this or that, and there isn't a lot for like female students. Yeah, exactly. And you know, you see the feedback we you know I've seen is that some girls just want to go out and dance. You know, so I was like, oh, I want to start this night called Cherry Bomb, which is, the name comes from my love for female fronted punk rock bands. So like,
Nina's trying to hold herself back here, I can see it.
Nina, please don't hold back, Nina.
It's just the Runaways is like, Joan Jett was part of my sexual awakening, so
Love
like
that.
the Runaways is so important to me. I think I heard Cherry Bomb, oh my god, this is really embarrassing, but I only found out who the Runaways were because Kristen Stewart played Joan Jett. And
she did.
And so I was like, oh my god, let me check this out. And I was
wild.
like, this is amazing. And then I talked to my mum about it. And she used to love the Runaways. She loves Joan Jett. She was really big into, she was really cool. She still is, but she was really cool in the 70s and 80s. Like she had like punk hair, and at one point she was a hippie and all this kind of stuff. Like, she was amazing. But yeah, she was like, oh my god, let me show you all this music. So from that, I mean, Joan Jett was, like I said, a massive part of my sexual awakening. But from that, I then got into like David Bowie and like so many other incredible artists that were so queer that I think I just kind of got brought up on it as well. So yeah, side tangent. I just love Joan Jett. I love her.
See, I love that, because that for you was Karen O for me, who's the lead singer of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. So yeah, like bands like Yeah Yeah Yeahs, La Tigra, Joan Jett and the Runaways, the Donnas, like these bands are what really stuck out to me as a young girl. And looking back now, that's because in rock music, all I ever saw, all I was ever exposed to was like male fronted bands. And so when I discovered these women fronted bands, I was like, oh my God, these anti-establishment women in this male dominated space, like it just opened up this world for me that I never knew. And so that's why I went for the name Cherry Bomb, because I wanted to pay like homage to all these incredible women that helped me find out who I was. And then obviously, sadly, in March, everything closed down. All the events industry completely disappeared, with little support from the government. And so this wasn't going to happen. So we had seating events in like October and December, and I thought, oh, maybe I don't want to lose this idea. I'm really passionate about it. I really think it could go somewhere. And then I thought, oh, why don't I do a seated panel event? And then that wasn't happening. And then Lucy and I used to live together before she moved to London. And we're quite a good creative pairing, I would say.
I agree. I think we could say that.
And so I was like, oh, Lucy, I'd love your help, because as much as I have these ideas, I can't put them down. I always need someone to help me put them down into paper, or to make the visual come to life. And so I was like, Lucy, I'd love for you to do this project with me. And then it went from being a live event to being a podcast.
I think just going back to your whole, like the way that you've met each other as well, and that sort of organic friendship, there is something so important, I think, especially about the year that we've just had specifically, and it sounds bizarre to say, but female friendships. I think some of my most empowering friendships and relationships in general have been with women. I don't know if that's just the way that I am or what, but
oh no, me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think one of the things that I kind of want to bring it around to is the fact that I think a lot of students, myself included, particularly people who are in first year, it's that frustration of the fact that I haven't been able to have these kind of amazing things where I can go to I can't even go to a pub and talk to the people next to me.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, you can only go to a bar or a pub with people that you know. And when I was when I was in Scotland, because of the curfew and things like that, you had to be, I think it was here for a while, but you had to leave by 10. And also I would say for about 2 months that I was even up there, the pubs weren't even open. So like that natural organic part of trying to meet people, and I'm an incredibly sociable person. I love meeting people and I love being in crowded spaces, and I love just kind of, I don't know, you spill your drink on someone and then you become best friends. Like it's just how it happens.
I like drunk girls in toilets.
Do you know what? I miss drunk girls in toilets. It's like you just shout, "Should I text my ex?" And all of a sudden you just hear this chorus of "No!" And you're like, I don't know who you are, but I love you.
I love that. The unity of like drunk girls in toilets, and the way that they gas you up as well. Like you just be like standing looking in the mirror, and someone come up and, "Oh my god, you're absolutely stunning. Like I love you." And it's like, "Oh, thanks." Like
heaven is a drunk girl's bathroom.
Yeah.
Period. I know. This is obviously from my perspective, but I do know a lot of people who I have made. You know, I was lucky enough to make some friends and stuff when I went to Edinburgh. But most of that was just pure chance. That the person I was living with and the person that lived below me are people that I absolutely adore. Like that was pure chance. And I know there's quite a few people who weren't as lucky, and it's just knowing that this is temporary. Like people who are, I keep having to remind myself over and over and over again, is that like, first of all, this is just my, you know, people always gone about first year being the best year, which I can see how it could be, but I haven't had that yet. But knowing that, okay, maybe year 2 is a bit dodgy.
Let me tell you now. Yeah. Let me tell you now, first year for me was not the best year. Second year was by far like the best year ever. First year, like I look back at it and like, yeah, I had some good times, but as a year as a whole, like don't feel like you need to pressure yourself to make it the best time, because I feel like it's easier in second year because you've established your friends and you've figured it out. Like you've become more comfortable in your surroundings. It's much easier to feel like for that to be a better time.
God, my freshers week was spent inside my dorm room because there was nothing in person because we weren't allowed to leave our dorm room, and they were like, "You can come join our online event," and I was like, "I don't know who you are, no thank you."
Well,
not that you shouldn't join the NSP online event, come to this.
But yeah, like freshers week in Brighton, right, from what I can remember, like the freshers week that the uni set up, it was awful clubs, and it was awful, like it was like Prism and Walkabout and Shoosh. Yeah, but they're not just like your average straight club. It's like intense, like it's like really like intense straight. Do you know what I mean?
No, thank you. I'm not
like it's like it's wild. Like I've never never set foot in any of these places since that freshers week, and like I'd never want to, because like, oh my god, it was just it was weird.
So there's some really straight clubs that I've gone to, and the place where I find other queer people in this very straight club is the alternative room.
Yeah.
And it cracks me up because you just have this sea of heterosexual people, which is so fine, by the way, like you do you, boo. But then you turn around into the corner and there's like, I don't know, some alternative artist playing, and then there's just a sea of like mullets and dyed hair, and
who would you give as your alternative artist example?
One that you would play in a straight club, I feel like, is Youngblood.
Youngblood is like, I feel like Youngblood is so, in a way, like very Gen Z, which makes it like,
yes,
I mean,
yes
really, like Youngblood could not have existed 10 years ago.
Oh, 100%.
It's kind of interesting looking at how he exists now, because it's almost like there's this new wave of male pop stars. I'm gonna put Harry Styles in this bracket,
and Lil Nas X as well.
Throw him under the bus.
Right, but this is where it differs, because Lil Nas X, I think, is really unapologetically queer, whereas Harry Styles, I'm not sure about Youngblood. I don't actually know anything about his sexuality, so I can't say, but like I don't think Harry Styles has ever really expressed his sexuality. Not that he has to, like, you know, whatever. But this is like a whole debate in itself, isn't it?
I think
really?
there's definitely, I know what you mean, there's definitely a grey area, and I think the easiest way that I kind of put it into brackets is that Harry still appeals to a heteronormative audience.
Yes.
Youngblood and Lil Nas X, I think, actually no, Lil Nas X, I don't know, but like,
I think Lil Nas X like is a real rule breaker.
Yeah, he's
like,
great.
absolutely
No,
just been like, I am gonna piss off all of these, like all of the Christians. I'm gonna slide down a pole into hell, and like
I'm gonna twerk on Satan, and we're all gonna love it,
right? And
because I did.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna talk about how gay I am all the time because I can, because I have this platform and I can do this, and it's amazing.
I always wonder how people would look at George Michael and go, a heterosexual. I'm like, oh, babes.
I think you also make an interesting observation about straight clubs and the alternative room. And by the way, when Lucy and I say straight, we mean a very particular kind of heterosexual person. We're not alienating any people who identify as straight.
No, not at all. It's it's hard.
It's a state of mind. It's a state of mind.
It's a state of mind. No, it's
you've got people who are straight and straight people. There are a massive difference.
Yeah, it's hard to I don't want to describe it because I feel like I'm going to go into this like stereotype, and I don't want to do that.
I would consider the defining part is you've got people who are straight, and then you've got the negative connotation is enforced heteronormativity.
Yeah,
it's people that, like, when I go to the doctors and I say, when I was with my ex-girlfriend, and I, they were like, are you pregnant? And I was like, no. And they're like, well, are you having unprotected sex? And I was like, yes. And they were like, well, you definitely could be pregnant. And I'm like, honey boo boo, I'm dating a woman with a vagina, so unless I'm the next Virgin Mary, I don't think it's gonna happen. It's just stuff like that I'm like, that's what I would consider straight people.
And like lads and stuff. So
lads.
It's very like the fifth, all of it.
I always think of that picture of the lads at the airport with the suitcases. Anyone else know what I'm talking about?
Going to Magaluf with their like, oi lads, like lads holiday.
So with alternative music, alternative fashion, I find, in my experience, is a gateway for a lot of queer people, or a lot of people who are just generally alternative or subvert the norm. So when you mentioned Fall Out Boy, I was very much of that era. Like, wearing makeup was acceptable for men in alternative genres, which I think is very interesting. And there's a lot of and then their manhood is never questioned or queried or critiqued because it's almost safe in alternative music. Which
I'm not the best person to talk about. I think my girlfriend probably be better, and she's probably going to listen to this and think I'm saying all the wrong things, but perfect example is someone like Rammstein. They've been around for years and years and years and years, and the amount of gay shit that are in those music videos,
it's true. It's exactly. And
people that inspire you. I mean, I think we've spoken a little bit about like music icons, and is there anyone that identifies as being female in specific, I guess?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we've spoken about Lady Gaga.
Emily,
I could speak more about Lady Gaga.
Well, I mean, there are so many. I feel like female pop stars, and they literally invented me. So they are the reason I exist. Like
100%.
Like literally, oh my god, right? I could talk about this forever, but I need to not. So
go as long as you want.
I'm just trying to think of so I think the first pop star that really that I remember having the Fame on a CD. So Lady Gaga, I think, was probably the first one that was a big standout to me because I was obsessed with all of it, and it was 11 years old singing along to songs like Teeth, which is about oral sex, and that.
That's me too. That's me well.
I thought it was about Twilight because she talks about
I thought it was about going to the dentist.
There we go.
I actually got my mum to play it on the way to the dentist once. I was like, I want to listen, and I was like, okay.
That's so wild because I was obsessed with it in my Twilight phase. So it was when she says, "Help, Nina Mang, now show me your fangs." It's Edward Cullen, obviously.
Right, Nina is still going through this Twilight phase.
Oh, me too.
We
love Twilight and Shrek. We have so much in common. It's wild. So it all kind of followed on from there. I really loved the Fame, and then I started getting into pop music. I never had an emo phase. I feel like I missed out on the Fall Out Boy phase of my life and just went straight to pop stars. But yeah, so then I loved Kesha and Katy Perry or whatever. But then when I was in high school, I started listening to Marina and the Diamonds a lot, and through her I discovered Charlie XCX, which Charlie XCX has basically raised me. Like I literally really grew up like through like I used to go to like nearly all of her shows, and like all the ones in London anyway, and we now like follow each other on Twitter and Instagram and everything, and we've met a few
What
times.
claim to fame?
But it's just weird because it's like a part of my like past now. So it's like she used to like would be at the front row, and she'd be like, shout out to all the like angels at the front, and would be like, woo. I've had many strange experiences involving Charlie XCX, like being taken to a weird island off of Essex and roller skating. But yeah, anyway, that's a whole other
no, hang on, we're going to go
cult.
down that path.
You just described a cult. I mean, I want to be a part of it.
No, but that's how we felt. We thought we were like, me and my friends talk about this, and we're like, we could have been trafficked. We got on this boat. We got on this boat, right? Like going to this weird island that I'd never heard of. And then there was nothing on this island. There's like this big house. And then there was like this roller skating ring. It sounds like
it gets worse somehow.
Somehow the more you explain it, the worse it seems to get.
But there was this like roller skating ring. So I went and like sat down, and like it was the people working there were like, you guys should go roller skating now. And I was like, okay, I'll listen to what I'm saying. So I went and like put my shoes on, was tying my lace up, and someone came and tapped me on the shoulder and was like, hi, how are you? And it was Charlie. And I was like, what is going on? Then we were all like roller skating, and like I fell over, and then we got this like private gig, and we did this dance lesson to Vroom Vroom. It was honest, like there's been many weird occasions like that. There was
a fever dream. This is a fever dream.
Yeah, so this is what I mean about how like pop stars have had such a massive influence on me. I think it's like I followed her like and everything, like every project she released was like massively into it and was so inspired by it, and like just spent so much of like my teenage years going to gigs.
Yeah, a lot of when I think of my female influences, I do think of pop stars or musicians.
Why is that, do you think? Why music?
That is a good question.
I think music provides an escape, especially when you're young. So I think that also in music, I think probably similar for you, Emily, when you like find people who are fans of the same thing, you find other like you see yourself in these other people, so it's validating and you makes you feel like less of an outsider.
Women who are musicians have a bit more control than I guess women in other fields, because maybe women aren't as well represented in other fields, like female directors or obviously there's actresses and whatnot, but they are always playing a character.
And I think the thing is with actresses as well, they're always under the control of a director.
Exactly that.
Some of the most well-formed people, and like particularly women, some of the best, this can sound really odd until I finish it, but some of the most well-formed, amazing women that I have ever met have such heavy influences from other women that they've been inspired by. And I think that's one of the things that just I love about women, is just we go, that's cool, I'm going to do that as well because I love that. And it's not any sense of like, hey, when people go, oh, she's copying, she's doing this. What, sorry?
It's not competition.
Yeah, exactly. It's not competition.
I hate this whole thing with gatekeeping. It's been such a big thing, I think, over the pandemic as well, with so many people have set their little businesses up, which is partly why I did the little showcase thing for I almost said for NHS.
For NHS. NSP.
So many people have set these little businesses up, and the amount of little businesses that are all selling the little funky body candles, and there's so much gatekeeping. It's like, oh, I'm selling this, you can't sell it. All buy the same molds.
What was your showcase?
So we're running a little showcase through the whole week that students can submit their own creative work or their own small businesses to, and it's all going to go on a pop-up website so people can scroll through and find other people's work and other people's businesses and stuff, which just a cute idea because so many students have set their own businesses up.
Good for them.
That's a really nice idea. That's such a nice thing to do, especially for like from like my experience being at uni and being on like a really creative course. There was so many people selling their like art and their prints and stuff.
For me, it's art and more the visual media consumption that inspired me. Like I just films, and particularly female artists and queer female artists, they hit a spot. Like I think I've mentioned this before, but Frida Kahlo was so important to like my upbringing, just because partly is because she reminds me of home, just because like there is a massive fuck off portrait of Frida Kahlo in my living room that has I've never not seen it.
Yeah.
But also just because like she was so unapologetically colourful, so unapologetically queer, like, you know, she included in all of her artwork, and she made some of her artwork is incredibly hard to look at because of how authentic it is, and you can tell that that's been painted with her own like blood, sweat and tears.
I think I'm drawn to things that aren't always like shot with the male gaze as well.
Oh, you've opened a can of worms. I think you're going to regret that sentence. But
you say this to like people who have been students and are students and male gaze.
Well, this is it. So like I feel like I'm drawn to women who create art for women. If women create, you know, but then again, I don't want to gatekeep people who don't do that, because everything is fine. But I think me personally, my own experiences, I struggle with like really I feel like I can tell when something is over sexualized and it is not on her terms.
You know, obviously Playboy has been around for like years and years and years now, and they in the past, I want to say since the 2010s, rebranded to be for women shot by women.
Exactly.
Which is, and I think that's a good example of how they were aware of this too.
What I was trying to say is like I like it when things aren't catered to men.
Yes,
at a woman's expense.
What was that film we were watching the other day? Portrait of a Woman on Fire, or Lady on Fire.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire. She's a lady.
And I think I saw a tweet and it kind of perfectly summed things up. And it's like, I can't always describe what the female gaze looks like, but I just know.
I think because in order to make it sell, that you can't rely on sex, particularly the sexualization of a woman, which means you have to be a bit more creative. And one of the biggest, like, you know, you're saying like you don't realize that you're like, oh, why is it that I love it so much? And then it's afterwards when somebody goes, oh, there's no male gaze, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But like the biggest easiest comparison is between Suicide Squad and Harley Quinn Birds of Prey. That is the biggest difference, because like even just the portrayal of Harley Quinn, like I love Marvel and I think it's amazing, but they definitely need to sort out not only their female representation but their queer representation. It's just the fact that her ass isn't in focus ever, unless it's like part of this incredibly beautiful costume that she's clearly so excited to be wearing.
I'm gonna say it wrong, so please correct me. The Bechamel test.
Bechamel test. Yeah.
I feel like once you know what the male gaze is, you can't unsee it, and it's the same with the Bechdel test.
Pretty much. So it's 3 categories and they each link to each other. So the first one is 2 named female characters that interact and do not discuss a man. And so like you can't, but what I find shocking is how few films pass it. It's the bar is so low. And then you throw in 2 people of color or 2 queer people on top of that. No, have fun. You'll never see it.
I have 2 more women in pop music that I forgot about that I would like to say.
Oh my god, who?
Bree Runway and Rina Sawayama.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, that's actually, no, they need to be mentioned.
They are 2 who are definitely ones to watch. Visually, musically, their morals, they're just both 2 incredible women.
Yeah, and what's crazy is Rina today or yesterday released a song with Elton John.
Yes,
which is wild.
Called Chosen Family.
Yeah, and Chosen Family is about finding your chosen family within being queer and finding your chosen family. That's what the whole song is about. So the fact that it's with Elton John is like really, I listened to it today and watched the video, and she's like on the piano, and I was like, oh god, it actually made me so like, it made me a bit emo. I was like, oh god, I mean, I cry at everything, but I don't want to cry at this video of Elton John right now, but like I
had something that I do definitely want to bring up. So because I want to kind of keep this in with women and students, like okay, so what advice as 2 postgraduates and 1 almost postgraduate would you have for queer students, i.e. me? Hello.
I think it was said earlier, but do not put any pressure on yourself to live your life to the fullest at uni. My first year at uni was a shambles. I hated it. Like my first freshers, it was basically a freshers month for me, but freshers fortnight, amazing. And then the rest of the year, I didn't leave my room. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't have any friends. I still to this day have maybe one friend, if that, from university. So like, do not put pressure on yourself, because life lives outside of university. University is not for everyone. And as I found out, the university that I went to was not for me. So do not put pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I think the thing that matters most of all is your own level of happiness. Because things can always be postponed. You can always pick things back up again. What is most important is your mental health. And on a social level, if you aren't finding people that you bond with, it is important to remember that you are plucked together with like all these people, and sometimes you get on and sometimes you don't. And if that's not, if you're not finding your people, you will find them one day. You might find your people when you're 25, when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, when you're 60, like I feel like people put so much pressure on your early 20s, your late teens. Like it's not that. You have your whole life ahead of you, and you don't have to rush into anything, and just take the time that you need to find out who you are.
And I think the other thing as well is like, there's two particular things that I want to bring up that I think are so important. One of them is that you have to remember that everybody is at and will be at very different points in their life at a different time to you. I've recently had so much stress with seeing a lot of my friends from like junior school and secondary school moving out with their boyfriends and like getting the first house together, or like they've just got this amazing graduate job and they're living in central London. And to me, it's just like, I'm still living at home. I'm doing something wrong. What's wrong with me, kind of thing. And I think the other thing as well is that it frightened me so much, because when I was a few years younger, I remember someone saying to me that between 21 and 23 they are your prime, and once you've hit that, that's it, it's all downhill from there. It's not true. It really is not.
No, it's not. It's a horrible way to think, to put a time limit on when you need to do things, because this whole thing is kind of like, I feel like capitalism has kind of enforced that.
Capitalism is the root of all evil.
Yeah, essentially. I feel like it's kind of enforced that upon us, this like these time limits, because it's all to do with when you're going to make this amount of money and when you're going to reach these goals, because you have to be constantly moving at this really fast pace. And like, don't get me wrong, I need to practice what I preach. I have huge issues with this. But don't put pressure on yourself to be doing this certain thing by a certain age. I know it's way easier said than done, but I'm still gonna say it.
And I think when you take all that pressure off of you, you make your best work, because you're restricted 100%. Within trying to impress someone, or like, you are just given that creative freedom to do what you want to do.
Exactly.
And I'm now in my prime with doing NSP, and it sounds like so cheesy to say, but I have found such a great group of people, and I found something that I'm so passionate about doing, and I enjoy doing it so much. I kind of want to change my entire career path just because I was co-chair for like so many months. So,
I mean, exactly that happened to me as well. You find yourself on this journey, so remember that it is a journey. It is a stepping stone to your future. And the presence of other people's success doesn't mean the lack of your own.
Never settle.
Never ever settle. Like, do not accept anything less than what you deserve. Okay, so
yes, and I think that's so
true.
Well, yeah, this is
that's
it.
The
like,
final message.
That is the final message. Like, you have your whole life ahead of you to do as many things as you want to do. Be yourself, babe.
Just be your most authentic self, and if you're being your most authentic self, things will happen naturally.
Yeah.
Thank you both for coming on the show today. It was so lovely to
thank you.
No worries at all. It was
thank you
lovely
for having us.
Yeah, it's lovely to speak to you both.
Include your socials and advertise the Cherry Bomb.
Would you like to go first, Lucy?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Instagram as Lucy Rose Fuller. And to find me and Emily as the Cherry Bomb account, it's just Cherry Bomb Social Club on Instagram.
Yeah, so I am at Emily Meow with 4 W's on Instagram. And yes, you can find our podcast on Apple Music and on Spotify.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.